Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Who else is gonna have like yeah. It's very simple.
Medium mix. So, Rico, what's going on? How are you?
I think it is, but I don't. It says 24.
I can gather. Just some like pardon? Yeah, that's right.
Because after summer, oh, I love summer. I can't.
This chair right here.
Uh,
Yeah. Stop that. I just have to make it.
that's great.
Once a year, though.
Oh yeah, wow. Yeah, just trying to
It's already closest. So right when you go to the relationship. You know, I
It's on. It's on. It just he just needs to have it closer to it. Yeah. Well,
I want to welcome everyone to Community Mosque, Salem. I want to express our appreciation for all of you coming out this afternoon. There's so many other things you could be doing. There's so many activities that go on in our city, particularly on the weekends. But you've chosen to spend a little time with us here today. Those of us who are part of Community Mosque, Winston, Salem. And we're going to introduce our distinguished guests at a little later point in the program. But first, I would ask that Nareem Ali come up and do a recitation of the Quran. Nareem.
American Slum.
There's 114 surahs or chapters in the Quran, and there's 13 juz or separas. And I'm going to be reciting the 67th chapter, which is known as Surah Mulk or the Kingdom. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور الذي خلق السبع سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير والذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سعادهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير وأسروا قولكم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزق وإليه النشور أأمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاسبا فستعلمون كيف نذير ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويقبل ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في أتم ومنفور أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أحدى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون قل هو الذي ذرأكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون قل أرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن ينجر الكافرين من عذاب أليم قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن يأتيكم بماء معين الله نسيم
Allahu Akbar.
Now I'm going to do the translation of the surah. Blessed is the one in whose hand rests all authority. He is most capable of everything. He is one who created death and life in order to test which of you is best in deeds, and he is the Almighty, all forgiving. He is one who created 7 heavens, one above the other. You will never see any imperfection in the creation of the most compassionate. So look again. Do you see any flaws? Then look again and again. Your sight will return frustrated and weary. And indeed, we adorned the lowest heaven with stars like lamps, and made them as missiles for strong, eavesdropping devils, for whom we have also prepared the torment of the blaze. Those who disbelieve in the Lord will suffer the punishment of hell. What an evil destination! When they are tossed into it, they will hear its roaring as it boils over, almost bursting in fury. Every time a group is cast into it, its keepers will ask them, did a warner not come to you? They will reply, yes, a warner did come to us, but we denied and said, Allah has revealed nothing. You are extremely astray. And they will lament, if only we had listened and listened. We would not be among the residents of the place. And so they will confess their sins. So away with the residents of the place. Indeed, those in awe of their Lord without seeing him will have forgiveness and a mighty reward. Whether you speak secretly or openly, he surely knows best what is hidden in the heart. How could he not know his own creation? For he alone is the most sovereign, all aware. He is one who smoothed out the earth for you. So move about in its regions and eat from his provisions. And to him is the resurrection of all. Do you feel secure that the one who is in heaven will not cause the earth to swallow you up as it quakes violently? Or do you feel secure that the one who is in heaven will not unleash upon you a storm of stones? Only then will you know how serious my warning was. And certainly those before them denied as well. Then how severe was my response? Have they not seen the birds above them spreading and flooding their wings? None holds them up except the most compassionate. Indeed, he is all seeing of everything. Also, which powerless force will come to your help instead of the most compassionate? Indeed, the disbelievers are only lost in delusion. For who is it that will provide for you if he withholds his provision? In fact, they persist in arrogance and aversion to the truth. Who is rightly guided? The one who crawls face down, or the one who walks upright on the straight path? Say, O prophet, he is the one who brought you into being, gave you hearing, sight, and intellect, yet you hardly give him any thanks. Also say, he is one who dispersed you all over the earth, and to him you will all be gathered. Still they ask, the believers, when will this truth come to pass? What you say, if what you say is true. Say, O prophet, that knowledge is with Allah alone, and I am only sent with a clear warning. Then when they see the torment draw near, the faces of the disbelievers will become gloomy, and it will be said to them, this is what you claimed would never come. Say, O Prophet, consider this, whether Allah causes me and those with me to die, or shows us mercy, who will save the disbelievers from a painful punishment? Say he is the most compassionate. In him alone we believe, and in him alone we trust. You will soon know who is clearly astray. Say, consider this. If your water were to sink into the earth, who else could bring you water, flowing water?
Alaikum assalam. Allahu Akbar.
Okay, brothers and sisters, we will continue with our program, and I'm going to give a brief introduction. You hear this all the time, a man that doesn't need an introduction. I'm talking about the mayor of our city, Mayor Alan Jordan. And I just want to say just a few brief words about him, because I can say a lot because he's been in office for a considerable amount of time. And I want to first say, and I just reminded our mayor, that he was the first political aspirant. He was the first person in Winston-Salem, after the community mosque had been established, to come to the community mosque and ask whether or not he could give a presentation here at the community mosque. That particular time, we weren't located in this building. We were down the street across the food park. But I want Alan John to know that it meant a lot to me as a person who's trying to be involved in the community, and having been here for so long, and everyone ignored us. The political candidates at that particular time. So what difference do those Muslims make? They're not going to vote anyway. So why waste our time? So we really appreciate your work. We appreciate how you have been a healing force in the community. Because there have been I'm not trying to talk bad about your predecessors, but there have been those who have been in your position were not healers. And whatever problems they were having in the community, sometimes they didn't contribute to the healing process. So I just want to let you know, and it's the feelings of all of us, that we appreciate your work. We appreciate your being here today. So I ask you to come forward and share some words.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here with my great friend, Edmund Griggs. He's been a great supporter of mine for 24 years. I'm just talking about that. But I'm delighted to be here for several reasons. First of all, I want to say thank you to Edmund and to the members of this mosque, and thank you for what you mean to our city, help bringing us together. We've worked on many issues over the years of trying to coalesce around some issues, figure out solutions to issues, and just us working together is the way we solve those things. Winston-Salem is on a pretty good path to the future. We have a good, strong economy. Our main thing right now, I would say two main things. One is affordable housing, obviously, and make sure we have enough decent housing for our citizens, and we're working hard on that. And the other is violent crime. We're seeing some good movement in that. Our police chief, Chief Penn, every violent crime category is down here in Winston-Salem, but we still have a ways to go. And we're working hard on that. And it's, the mosque and our churches and our temples and other religious organizations are working together that we address these issues. Appreciate the opportunity. I'd forgotten the story coming to the mosque back in 2001, I guess it was, when I was running the first time. And a little bit nervous to ask the imam if I could come, but he said, come on in. And so we had a great opportunity to speak and learn more about the organization. Last year I had the real honor of touring the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, and was just blown away by the tremendous feeling of energy there. And so thank you, Edmund, for letting me stop by this afternoon to work with this mosque. I think you're going to be giving away backpacks today, maybe as well. So thank you all for letting me stop by, and God bless you. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you so much again. My dear brother who brought the idea of having an open mosque to invite the community in, to just understand, to expose those who have not been directly exposed or involved with Muslims or the activities of Muslims, to bring them to the mosque so we can talk, have a discussion, to try to come together as we have tried as a community to come together with all of the citizens in the city of Winston-Salem. And so now we will have a part of this program where we will go through a few slides. I'm not going to try to keep you here long. We have some very good food downstairs. I know you would want to keep apart and indulge in this very delicious lunch. But one of the things that we want to do is to just give a little preview about the history of the community mosque. Not necessarily a preview. We want to let you know some of the things that the community mosque has been involved with over the years. Now, I've tried to get my brother to come closer to me because I can't see the slides because the TV's there, and he was confused. So now he understands. I can't see it. That's far away. So I appreciate it. So we want to just talk very briefly about the history of Islam in America and in what's the Salem. Yes, stand here. I'll just sit here. See it a little bit better. His old eyes can't get that distance what he used to. Okay, so if you just look at it as we go through some of these things, and the first entry is that the African story on this land began, the African Muslim story on this land began long before slave ships crossed the River Passage. Historical records or traditions and even European explorers point to African presence of Muslims in the Americas centuries before Columbus. One of the earliest documented cases of a Muslim being in the Western Hemisphere was that of Estevanico, who was a Moor from North Africa, who reached present-day Florida in 1528 and later explored the American Southwest. And if now we have checked on the scholar Google, and so we can access information and AI. So it's not hard for us to find out the history about any of these historical figures. But he's a very interesting figure in history. And as this particular author says, he was one of the first known Muslims, not just to be in the Western Hemisphere, but to explore this area that became known as the United States. And traveling particularly through the Southwest, he was a savant when it came to languages. And so wherever he and those Spanish explorers would go across continental North America, and particularly the southwest part of Florida and the southwest of the United States, he would just be there a few days and he could learn the languages of the indigenous people. So he was so valuable in translating and just picking up these languages. It's a fascinating figure. And for our young folks who stay on their cell phones all the time, just Google Estevanico and you can get more of this history. But he's someone that you don't hear about being presented in history and about this part of the world. Historians estimated that 20 to 35% of the enslaved people brought to the Americas were Muslims. Can I see the hands of those who knew this, have ever heard this? There were no Christians. There were no people of Jewish descent who were brought into the Americas as an enslaved person. And so Islam, by numbers, entering into the Western Hemisphere, was introduced to this part of the world, to the indigenous population, as well as the immigrant population that would come in later into this area called the United States. There were Muslims of African descent who were already in this land, and many of them, throughout their period of enslavement, were able to hold on to their faith. And that's a tremendous thing, and it makes me ashamed of myself, the years that I've been Muslim, whatever compromises I've had, and exhibiting my faith, to think about those who were in chattel slavery. And they were able to not only, many of them, not only hold on to their faith, but because of that, they were able to make an imprint, leave a footprint in American history that some of us, after embracing Islam, tried to dig this history out. This was before computerization. Look through old microfiche, this kind of thing, to try to find this information that's so readily available today. Omar ibn Said was an imam in the country now from this area known as Senegal. And Omar ibn Said was captured and brought to the United States, and he was enslaved in Charleston, South Carolina. And Omar ibn Said escaped. He was a scholar as well. He was an imam, but he was a Muslim scholar. He escaped from Charleston, South Carolina to Fayetteville, North Carolina. And he was walking around like everybody walking around, but this is a slave state. And so, where's your pass? Who is your master? He was confronted with this in Fayetteville, and when he had no pass, he was an escaped enslaved person. So he was locked up in the jail in Fayetteville. And being locked up in the jail in Fayetteville, Omar spent his time taking pieces of coal that were in his cell and writing on the walls of the cell. And as he was writing on the walls of the cell, his jailers and others, it became a joke. This guy is a lunatic. He's writing the most crazy scribble scrabble on the walls you could ever find. And then finally, some enlightened human being went in there and looked, and he said, "That's not scribble, that's Arabic. I've seen that before. I've seen this in the western coast of Africa. I've seen them writing these kinds of letters, alphabets." And so they brought someone in to figure out what it was, and they said, "No, this is he's writing verses from the Quran." And he could do nothing else. He couldn't have the Quran in his hand. But because he had the entire Quran in his head, he was a hafiz of Quran. He knew the whole Quran. And he was writing in charcoal on the walls. So because he demonstrated that he's intelligent, in quotes, he's an intelligent guy, he's an educated guy, his time as an indentured person, not indentured, but as a captain in Fayetteville, North Carolina, the work that they had to do was not as harsh and brutal as it was to many of the people who were in that situation. So, enough of the history. I'll go quickly through this and try to give an overview of the history of the community mosque of Winston-Salem. There have been Muslims that I would characterize and that we would characterize as being Orthodox or Sunni Muslims in Winston-Salem many years before the community mosque of Winston-Salem was established. So I'm not trying to sit here and say that we in the community mosque were the first Muslims who were in Winston-Salem, because that was not true. But what I will say is that in the late 70s, going into the 1980s, there was no organized place, no mosque, where anyone could go just to do the basic things like Friday prayer. And I'm not saying this like, wow, look at what we've done. No, but it is a historical fact that the community mosque of Winston-Salem, when it was organized, was the only established place at that time where the Friday prayers were being made. And so if there's nothing else that we've done over the decades that we've been in this community, one of the things that I personally feel so good about is that we established this fundamental duty of Muslims in any area to stop what we're doing on Friday and come and gather collectively with other Muslims and give full attention, stopping in the middle of the day on Fridays, and you were joining Muslims all over the planet, who whatever time zone they're in, they're doing the same thing that we started doing here in Winston-Salem. So from the time that we established the community mosque of Winston-Salem, and I see folks who I haven't seen in a while in the community, but I see my dear brother, can you raise your hand so folks can see what I'm talking about? Ibrahim. our dear brother Ibrahim Hanif. And Ibrahim Hanif was one of those of us who founded, who started this collective effort of worship here in Winston-Salem that now we have called Community Mosque of Winston-Salem. And Ibrahim surprised me when I looked back and saw him. I mean, he's driven up from Spartanburg, South Carolina today. So I'm really, really happy to see Ibrahim. It reminds me how old I am. I see Ibrahim, probably a year or two older than me, so I know that it's a reminder of my age. So the community mosque from its very beginning was involved in trying to be a piece of that element within the city of Winston-Salem, regardless of what race, regardless of what religion, to be a part of an organized effort to take a stand for justice, for social justice. It didn't matter what the race was, it didn't matter who was being oppressed, it didn't matter what the situation was, and you can't be everywhere, do everything. And I'm not trying to say that everybody in the community mosque over the years have even agreed with the crazy imam that they have, who just wants to run out there and, like carry the flag all the time, read for justice, this kind of thing. But this has been the mission, to be a support, to be a help to the community in which we are part. And towards that end, early on, the first thing that was established with Community Mosque was a weekend school. And that weekend school started on Saturday. And what we realized from the very beginning was that even though we're doing this weekend school, and we were in a building that was almost abandoned at this point, at 6th and Patterson Avenue, we were up on the 3rd floor of this near abandoned building, what used to be a professional building for African American dentists and doctors and people making teeth and this kind of thing, dentures and this kind of thing. And so we had the top floor, we had space, and even at the very beginning, the community mosque was involved in issues that were impacting those who were dispossessed, those in need of support from the community. But we've also, during this period, even started, I think it even started, no, it started when our next move, we were on 6th Street, and Brother Khalil Rodriguez was there with us on 6th Street. He was already here in Winston, and he was one of the people that some of us met. So, oh yeah, well, now we got enough to have Juma. Just need 3 people. And so now we have enough to start Juma, built from there. But then we moved from that place to, I can't remember how many rooms it was, but it wasn't a lot, a house on the corner of 3rd Martin Luther King. And that house on 3rd Martin Luther King was up the street from Winston-Salem State University. So a lot of the downward efforts in those early days was on the campus of Winston-Salem State, because you had all these students that was during the time when people were looking for change and this kind of thing. So we were throwing our fishing pole and our hook into Winston-Salem State, trying to see how many we could try to expose them to Islam, but to involve them in volunteer work and some of the things that we were doing. We stayed in that location, we purchased that house, we stayed in that location for, from 1980, they escaped. We stayed in that location. We moved in 1992, and we moved there in 1987, 1986 or 1987. We moved down the street. It was 1011 Walltown Street. It was directly across from the Food Line store. And it was interesting watching how the patrons of Food Line, when they would come out of the store, or even we could see through the glass, how the people were just fascinated. Who are these strange people across the street? Who are these women walking around with those rags on their head? Who are these guys walking with these beanie caps on their head? They don't know that they're supposed to worship on Sunday. They even on Friday, you see them coming in. And so at that particular time, even after years of having an established mosque, there was still this who are these people kind of attitude for the most part here in Winston-Salem. Then we moved from down the street into this building, which was a church. I've forgotten the denomination of the church. It was an activist church. They were very activists in the community. So we feel that we kind of have honored the building as, even though it's now not a Christian congregation, but a Muslim congregation, but similar kinds of focus on helping the community have been done out of this particular facility. What we're talking about until COVID, a monthly free health clinic, a Dr. Muhammad Attar would drive from Mount Airy every month. He would do all kinds of things in between, but he would drive down faithfully every single month to operate, to be in charge of this particular clinic. It was very needed and it was very helpful in establishing community mosques as a place that are not just foreign to the community, but trying to be a part to help in whatever way that we can. So we did free clothes giveaways, just a number of different things involved in what we formed anti-drug patrols. And it was really interesting. The statute of limitations may not have run out of some of the things that some of those brothers did in the name of anti-drug law. So again, talk about that. I might get arrested. Yeah. Officer Medina back there in the back said, you know, you're not out of our grip yet. So I'll come to arrest you. But we didn't do anything illegal like that. But you have to have a certain mindset to go into some of the areas that we went into and to confront those who were selling or using drugs and this kind of thing. It took a certain kind of person and people and mindset to do this work. So we were able to do these things, and okay. So if I had known this, man. Okay, so there's no one who has watched the television, listened to any news, looked at reels on Facebook, gone to any of the social media in the last over 2.5 years and has not been exposed, and persons like myself overwhelmed by what we are seeing that's happening in Palestine at this particular point. And for those who don't know, the third most holiest site on the planet to the Muslim community is there in Jerusalem. It's Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third most holiest site behind the Kaaba and that sacred precinct there, behind the mosque of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in Medina. The third most sacred place, and I can't remember exactly the number of blessings. It's either like 100,000 more times in blessings that you get praying in Al-Aqsa Mosque. I'm not going to go into all of the history of Al-Aqsa, the Muslims, all the communities, the Jewish community, the Christian community that have been, who today have been sharing that space as holy ground. I had the opportunity a few times of going to Al-Aqsa Mosque at least on three different occasions. And what was fascinating about Al-Aqsa Mosque is that you come out of the mosque, and if you turn to the left, and you go to that wall off to the left, and you stand there and look down, you see the Wailing Wall, where the people of Jewish faith, and that is so sacred to them. And you see them at the Wailing Wall. And then you just, from that spot, you just go down just a little bit more. And I think it's the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, is what it is. And this has so much religious significance to the people of the Christian faith. So within almost a stone's throw of each other, some of the most sacred places to the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim religions are right there together. They're right there together. And for centuries, there have been peace with folks living in these areas together. If we have time, you'll see this little short video where this brother is pointing out some of this history and talking about, from a historical standpoint, how we were dealing and interacting with each other as Muslims, Christians, and Jews for so many centuries, right? But now nobody can turn on your television or go online without seeing scenes that no one in this room has been alive to see in any place being shown to us in real time the way that it is now. It doesn't mean that the madman in Cambodia, when he was doing his crazy thing, just massacring so many people, but we didn't see it in real time. We didn't see the effect. We didn't see what was going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We didn't see that stuff in real time, but we're seeing this in real time. And the comment that I'll make is that this is an issue that, in my humble opinion, should supersede religion. This is an issue, as I perceive it, an issue of human behavior and what are humans capable of doing to one another. When can anybody remind me and remind us when starvation is being used as a political or social tool? Starve a population while hundreds of aid trucks are not allowed to come in. And so it's not about faith, in my humble opinion. This is about humanity. This is something that goes beyond the politics of an individual. That little kid that's been, playing, going across the floor. What would it look like if it was set up that we starved this kid to death? And what would it look like if in our neighborhood somebody comes out to get food relief and they're targeted and shot and killed? So this is some unprecedented stuff that we are seeing now. And I'm calling upon all of us, starting with myself. Don't just be neutral. It's this social activist, Howard Zinn, wrote this book, and he was saying how you can't be neutral on a moving train. Things are moving. Things are speeding at a very fast pace. And we can't be neutral as we see this speeding train zooming down the track. And so, from the perspective of, I would hope, most, if not all of the members of Community Mosque, all of the Christians in the Christian communities here, we have, it's mind-boggling to me because I'm an older guy and I've never in my lifetime seen anything like this being exposed to the world in real time. And while it's being exposed, now protesters, if you're talking against students, like at Columbia University before last semester ended, being arrested. And now places are just, it's just a horrendous situation. So those of us of faith are challenged in a way like we've never been challenged before. And it's our responsibility, believing in a creator, believing in a responsibility that we're going to have to stand before our creator and be questioned about what did you do when this horrendous, inhuman treatment was meted out on your phone. Now I don't have to go home and watch television. I just open my phone up and I see all of these images. I see all of these testimonies. The last thing I'm going to say on this, and I'll be done. That is that, and we have things on here. And if anyone wants the full discussion that we have in these slides, if you just let us know, and we'll send that to you. Not just about Gaza, but I'm not mentioning everything that we have for presentation. And I don't want to get too far out on the soapbox, so I'll kind of bring this discussion to an end. But we are divinely mandated to take a stand and position. And it's not from a certain religious platform. It's just as a human being that we must take these stands and take these positions. I'll share one thing with you quickly. I mentioned that I've been in that part of the world on 3 different occasions. And it becomes very, very personal because on one of those occasions, before Gaza was shut down, I was in and going throughout the Gaza Strip. And in every city, every town that we went into, I made the choice of not living in one of the cities or some kind of hotel. I made the choice of only one other person in a delegation of about 15 so-called faith community leaders, Christians, Muslims. I was only Muslim and people of the Jewish faith. And this not young, he was my age at that time, but I was young. So this young guy was very community involved. He was actually, one time, he'd been the mayor of a city in West Virginia. And the trip was sponsored by the North Carolina Council of Churches. And they wanted us to be exposed to certain things, to come back and try to help educate the public about what was actually going on in that part of the world. But it became so personal because everywhere in Gaza Strip I chose and was hosted by someone who was living in one of the refugee camps. And so hearing about it is one thing, but seeing it, hearing it, and smelling it is something totally different. So there's no way that anyone who's been directly exposed, I saw something on the news, and I'll shut up after this. I saw a news clip this morning, and the guy, Mandy Patinkin, I think is his name, he used to play Saul, I think it was a CIA agent in one of the series. I forgot the name of the series now. I can't remember what the name is, but I've watched the whole thing. And he and another activist, humanitarian person, had gone to Gaza, and he was allowed to see with his own eyes and to hear and to see these things and see the devastation. And he, this morning, when they were showing him in this live interview, openly said, I broke down. Like I had a nervous breakdown. I've experienced a lot. I ain't a kid. But it was so devastating to him that you could see that he did not have the kind of emotional balance that he had demonstrated through all the years that he was on television. It tore him up. It ripped him apart. And so it's one thing to see it on TV, it's one thing, but when you actually in that environment, I don't see how any person can walk away and say that this, what we're seeing today, and what has been happening to the Palestinian people since 1948, that this is justifiable by any humanitarian standard that is justified behavior in any kind of way. And like I say, I'm not making this, I'm trying not to make this as a political statement and just making it as a humanitarian, as people concerned about the health and well-being of other human beings. This is something, regardless of perceived consequences, that you and I have to do something to try to step out of our comfort zone, at least for Muslims in particular, on Day of Judgment, and we be questioned about what did you do in regards to something so obvious and clear. What did you do? Did you say any word against it? Did you do anything? Or you just continue like everything's fine and well, this kind of thing. So this is, I'll get off the soapbox at this particular point. And like I said, you can be sent the slides, the slides, and just let us know. These are what are considered our pillars of Islam. We were very fortunate yesterday after our Jummah, our Friday worship service, to have a young sister to embrace Islam. And this seems to be a day for Muslims. It's the best day of the week. And as defined by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But we seem to have we get more people embracing Islam on Fridays than we do any other time. Maybe it's just something peculiar here in Western Salem. But on Fridays, this is when we find people coming to embrace Islam. I see our sister Bispa, and she embraced Islam on Friday, and others, they come in on a Friday and embrace Islam. So, but the 5 pillars of Islam, this Shahada, that's the declaration. There's no God but Allah, and Muhammad, the son of Allah, is the final message, compromising means, the last of the prophets. Over 123,000 prophets preceded him, this was the last one. And that declaration, there's no God but Allah, and then that Muhammad is the final prophet, the prayer, which some of you all may have seen us do, it became in certain form, we had a prayer that was due, and we were making the collective prayer, the Salah. We have to pray 5 different periods of the day, not on the exact minute. The earliest we make the prayer, the better. But Allah is so merciful that He acknowledges that there will be times and events where as soon as the prayer comes in, you're not able to make it right there. And so we have periods, 5 different periods a day. We are required, if we are physically able and not traveling to fast during the 9th month on the Muslim calendar. In this month, it's called Ramadan. Some of you may have heard Ramadan before and know that Muslims are fasting during this month. It's also the month in which the Quran was first revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. It came down over a 23-year period. The first revelation came during this 9th month of Ramadan. So this is a month as an expression of appreciation. We fast on this month. Another pillar of Islam is that of paying, it's kind of like a poor due called zakat. That if we have savings that we've had for a 12-month period, Muslims are required, and we don't have to pay certain kinds of bills. You borrowed all this money, and you borrowed from an individual, and you're not paying the money back. You got all these savings. This is forbidden for us to do. So we pay our debts. And if we have savings beyond what we owe to other people, 2.5% of those savings are collected and distributed to those in need. It's a way where the money circulates in society. In the United States, it's going to be, and I'm trying to stay away from political talk, but it's going to be devastating. The consequences of the cuts in federal programs is going to devastate every community across this country.
is not just going to be people from certain communities. It's going to have a devastating effect on those who are dependent upon the government grants, not grants, but the allocations that are coming from the federal government. In Islam, the government has a responsibility, but not the kind of responsibility that we have under the system of government here. That surplus, that wealth that comes from that people are able to save over a year, is our responsibility to take care of the people in the community, in our community first and foremost. It's our responsibility to gather these monies and to help and to assist those who are suffering in the society. And so I'm telling you, in a dependent, if the government set up the way that it is, and I pray I'm wrong, but people with much more knowledge than me are saying the same thing. We are going to suffer a devastating impact of the cuts on free lunches and SNAP and all of these things. It's going to be horrendous. And so those who have surplus wealth, you don't just squander the wealth, but we have to find ways now to, as a community, collectively, and not depend on even agencies, funded agencies, to do this work. Because funds are being cut all across the board, everywhere.
So,